Well, hello and thank you for joining me for another Alex on Tech and iTWireTV interview. Today I'm joined by Chris Evans. He is the ambassador of VMware's Office of the CTO and a staff solution engineer. And he's also the guest speaker at Over the Wire's July 22nd event in Adelaide on the future of SD-WAN and SASE. Welcome to iTWireTV.
Thank you, Alex. It's great to be here with you guys.
So before we get to the event, which, I remember that last July, Over the Wire partnered with VMware to deliver managed SD-WAN services in Australia, and that last September, Over the Wire upgraded Australian radio and TV company Nova Entertainment's network with managed SD-WAN. So, can you please refresh us on the benefits of SD-WAN for modern businesses, and also tell us how the partnership with Over the Wire is going?
Yeah, look, Over the Wire are definitely one of our strong partners in this space, offering customers choice of carrier whilst moving away from legacy technologies like MPLS. And there's also a heavy focus on remote user access and application security. And one of the things they're able to do with SD-WAN is look at over 3,000 applications traversing environments. They can also do rapid and simple scale deployments. So they can go to customers' environments and rapidly change their environment versus a traditional approach, which would be months, if not years. We've also seen with the SD-WAN evolution in the last 18 months, a big work from home piece. So what Over the Wire's been able to do is work with customers where key employees have to go home, but they want that same enterprise grade services. They might be a call center where we're doing voice and video now. That engagement with customers is critical. If they go home and their broadband's a bit flaky, customers are going to get burnt. Their diverse carriage offering has been really good. So they come on site and they'll design and deploy, but they'll also manage the environment so customers can take that pressure away and focus on their business. The partnership started with SD-WAN, but it's also grown to the VMware SASE platform. They're able to use our 150 global locations of points of presence, not just to do SD-WAN, but also to do the other elements of SASE, such as network intelligence and secure access and the new cloud and web security services.
Okay, so on Tuesday, the 22nd of July at the Prohibition Liquor Co in Adelaide, between 3 and 5 p.m, you will be the Over the Wire's guest speaker, special guest speaker at a complimentary event for thought leaders in the IT industry. So what will that event be covering?
Yeah, we'll be discussing connectivity in the new world and gain insights into the importance of secure network technologies, including the future of SD-WAN and SASE, along with a roundtable discussion amongst plenty of exceptional food and gin tasting, a guided gin tasting actually, session to tantalise the taste buds and the neurons of those attending.
So look, obviously you and Over the Wire would love to see IT executives there in person, and so you obviously won't be giving away your entire presentation here, but can you please give us a bit of a sneak peek?
Yeah, so what we'll cover is SASE, Secure Access Service Edge. It is a new word in the market. Gartner coined it only a couple of years ago. So we'll give you an overview of how that looks. There's a strong message on security as the traditional business boundaries disappear, ensuring customers' digital assets are secured, even as your workforce has become highly remote. Applications are moving out of data centers into SaaS offerings. We still need to secure customer data and the business IP. The VMware SASE approach will show you how to quickly provide a centralized approach to bring all these elements together. And with those thousands of applications in data center and SaaS, there's a whole bunch of new challenges for users and their data. So what we've seen is that evolution where we're moving away from this traditional firewall approach. So we'll cover a lot of those elements, and we'll actually have that roundtable conversation to see where everyone stacks up today.
Sure, absolutely. So, what other corporate networking and security data challenges that businesses are facing, which encompass some of the use cases for deploying SD-WAN and SASE solutions?
Yeah, we touched on work from home, and that huge explosion, unfortunately, due to COVID, has been a big eye-opener about how many businesses were ready. Most companies, 10, 15% could probably work from home. We've had organizations switch to 100%. I've got staff members who I've worked with for 18 months I've never met, who have never been to our offices.
Incredible.
So it's really interesting to see how that's evolved. Ease of deployment, we touched on this, and we come back to the iPhone analogy. Customers can take an iPhone out of a box, sign in 10 minutes, it's done. That's where we've got to with SD-WAN. We want customers to take it out of a box, put a PIN code in, and that's it. There's no specialized engineering groups having to come on, spend days on site doing stuff. And this allows us to do rapid rollouts of thousands of endpoints. Choice is probably one of the big drivers for the traditional SD-WAN approach. Being able to go, actually, I'm going to deploy a network solution and pick the right carrier for each location. And if you're a global, that's really difficult. You can't pick one carrier that covers every geographic region in the world. So you end up picking multiples. We want you to pick the best one for each reason, and then we'll overlay our technology in there to give you the same universal experience. And the other big one is security, and we keep talking about it, but it's not getting any easier. It seems to be getting worse every day for most organizations. So instead of building a unique solution, try and solve all these problems, we're bringing all this back into the cloud, and we're using some of the analytics and machine learning functions that VMware offer to help our customers strengthen their security posture.
So look, just an observation that obviously with centralization and decentralization, I mean, clearly the whole work from home is decentralization to the max. And you mentioned before how it's so much simpler these days. Many times technology has made things more complicated, but we seem to be back on that getting things simpler again. And thank God we're here.
Yeah, it's really interesting. We're actually now seeing customers who are quite happy to have that cloud-based management control plane, but decentralize their workforce, which even a couple of years ago, you couldn't have dreamt of in the industry. It was just such a challenge to do that. But being able to use the cloud to manage the platform, but then say, okay, let's just manage it. We can actually disconnect management. The whole thing will continue to run until that's reconnected. So we can bring users on and off. We can have different consumption models, different deployment models around the world, but I can have one pane of glass to view everything.
Yeah. Now, you probably mentioned some of this already, but what should customers look for at VMware with SASE?
Understand what they're trying to achieve. It's not just a replacement for a router that you've been replacing for 15 or 20 years. And I've been guilty of that in previous lives. You would go into a customer and every 5 years you'd do a box replacement because that was the most cost-effective thing to do at the time. It's to have a look and go, what are we doing? Where are our applications? So VMware's got a big focus on application development. We're a massive software company ourselves. So when we're talking to customers, it's a top-down approach. Talk about the apps. Or actually, these apps are going to the cloud. These ones we've had for 20 years, and they make 90% of our margin. From a customer perspective, you leave them where they are. So we're getting customers to have a look at how their business functions, and that can be a bit challenging because IT is often struggling just to keep the lights on. And when you say, well, actually, let's stop. Let's understand where you're headed. And that's where things like SD-WAN and SASE can really help because we don't have to rebuild the application platform. The business can go and pick new stuff out of the cloud and they can keep the things running on-prem, which make them money.
Now look, as we get towards the end of the interview, I always like to ask if you could please share your memory of your first computer.
Oh, I was thinking about that the other day. First computer was a Bondwell, which I don't think exists in any form these days. It was a laptop my father would bring home when I was probably about 7. It was x86. I worked out it had a mega RAM on the motherboard, but it could only access 512. Pretty quickly figured out how to find a game to play on it. And it came with a little box of DOS 1 manuals.
Yeah.
And I read those things cover to cover. And I was thinking about this the other day. I went, I still use the commands I learned 40 years ago, and some of them have changed a little, and Linux has got its own flavor, but I'm still using that technology, a skill I learned in year 4 or something, in my day-to-day life, which is pretty amazing. There's not many other things that I'm still happy to go and do from 40 years ago. Yeah,
it's always fascinating to hear what people's experiences of their first computers were, and of course, DOS, seminal thing. I mean, I remember when I came across DOS, I had actually been introduced to CP/M, so it was like almost like that scene from Jurassic Park with the girls going Linux or Unix. I know this, and sort of I knew bits and pieces of DOS because it was DOS was a clone of CP/M. But yeah, the old terminal, the old command line. For a lot of people, that they don't realize that when they talk to Alexa, they're basically speaking command line codes.
Yeah.
So, what's a little bit of your own history in the world of tech?
Oh, let's see. I've been working for integrators prior to joining VMware. So I've been in VMware for 5 years, integrators for 16 years before that. Mm-hmm. And I guess one of the perks in South Australia is you get to go very broad in a lot of customers, multiple vendors, multiple challenges. And we don't get some of the massive organizations over here. So customers have to squeeze every dollar. And I guess that's one of the learnings I've had in my career is being able to look at a customer and almost empathize with them. Where are your challenges? Yep, you'd like everything. You can only afford a tenth of it. How do we get you something that's workable, something that, honestly, if all I can give people in IT is a good night's sleep, I think that's a huge win.
So look, from the past to the future, how do you see SD-WAN technologies evolving over the next couple of years? And where do you think the telecommunications, networking, managed service provider industry, and heck, the entire internet will be by, say, 2030?
Yeah, look, it is so much easier to get connected. If you go back 10 years, NBN didn't exist. We're still on DSL. High-speed broadband was a fantasy for most parts of the world.
Weren't they just switching off ISDN back then?
Say again?
Weren't they just switching off ISDN back then?
I'd like to say yes, but I've still got customers on ISDN today.
Really incredible.
Yes. They were probably switching off frame relay.
Yeah, okay.
If you want to go back that far. Yes. My first modem was a 300 baud modem.
Me too, yeah. Oh,
that's how far I go back.
Yeah. I had to borrow it from
I
had to borrow it from the hardware library of the Microbee user group because they were so expensive back then. They were so expensive.
Yes.
Sorry, I interrupted. Please keep going.
Yeah. Look, and now we've got 5G, which at some point in Australia will get north of 2 gig of throughput. I've got brilliant NBN. I've got a node in front of my house. I get 100 meg. To think about 2 gig, it probably won't make a huge difference to the viewing habits of my children. But it's all the other elements as everything in my house starts to become connected. Knowing that bandwidth problem has basically been taken away is great. We're seeing a huge push in automation for customers automation's been one of those business processes. How can we make this easier and flows for business process get easier? But in IT, we still have people building servers manually, building applications manually, and there's no life cycle as part of that. So we're seeing customers go, having an automated life cycle for an application isn't just about making life easier. It's all that security. If you have a vulnerability released tomorrow, your ability to rapidly test that application against the vulnerability in minutes or hours versus, I've got to spin something up in months is really critical. Design, getting customers to start saying, look, we don't want to do the traditional build. We want to go into a data center and stand up racks and stuff. We just want that to go. If it's running in the cloud or if it's running on-prem, we just want to get to step 50 before we start. And then we'll put our business on top of that. We don't want to, the days of building data centers, and I built a lot of data centers, is done. There are specialists who do it really well. And I don't think customers want to be involved in that process anymore. They want to just start consuming and deliver an outcome. We'll see more machine learning. I think that's going to take hold even more. It's probably not going to be something you see a lot on-prem, but as we're talking about our cloud management plane, its ability to go, hey, I'm seeing different trends across different customers, across different segments, and being able to feed that back to customers at a global scale as we continue to expand, I think is going to be really valuable.
Now, my final question revolves around what's your final message to iTWire viewers and readers and to VMware and Over the Wire's current and future customers and partners? And I'm sure part of that answer is come along to the event on July the 22nd. And if you go to iTWire.com, just it pops up and invites you to come along. But otherwise, what's your final message?
In your network or security or just your general IT architecture, if nothing's really changed in the last 5 years, it's definitely worth coming to see what the new horizon looks like. It's a bit of an eye-opener how fast things have progressed in the last 5 years, and what better way of doing it than with a gin in your hand.
Absolutely. Well, I like to show people how to use the various features of their phones. And I often say to people that, they're using their phone like it was launched in 2007 and we're now in 2021 and there's so many cool things you can do. And people just need to know and see. So I'm sure when they come along, they'll be able to have their eyes open to all the amazing new capabilities, and you'll be there in a COVID-safe environment to guide them all through it as well. So I wish I could be there too. Unfortunately, I'm stuck in Canberra and we're not allowed to go to South Australia. But that'll come again, don't worry. The world is only going to get better in the end. So, well, look, thank you very much for your time, Chris Evans, Ambassador at the Office of the CTO at VMware and Software Systems Solutions Engineer. I probably got that wrong, but thank you very much for your time, and I hope we can talk again in the future.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. It's been great.
Bye-bye.